This is TWiT.
The three of us would do good to go out on our own if we need to, because according to a study by a human resource analytics software company, women and men both struggle equally to get jobs in tech when they're old. And by old, I mean over 40. And rest assured, men still have the advantage in tech managerial roles during the childbearing years for women. Visier Incorporated says the average tech worker is 38 years old compared to the average non-tech worker who is 43 years old. And this, they say, is a result of systematic ageism in tech hiring practices. The study says this is harmful to companies because people over 40 enter the tech sage age. Oh. That's the tech sage, and that wisdom and experience. That sounds good, though. That's good. It's good. So that wisdom and experience make them more valuable overall, even though they're less likely to be hired. So hiring people hire tech sages like us.
So if you're that age and you already have a job, you're stoked because you're valued. But if you're that age and suddenly you don't have a job, then you're not very happy because all the youngins are taking up the jobs. Even though you've got a lot to offer. You're a sage, as it were.
As many of the problems with hiring practices, as we've talked about before, it's just implicit bias. People assume you're 41 years old, you're not going to be able to work late nights, you're not going to be able to come in on the weekends. Right. And there's this thing that I can't ever point out, but I'll say anyway, because it's sort of reverse sexism. But I say, like, I'm done having my kids. Like, don't I'm not going to go on maternity leave. Like those kind of things. Those would never be things that I would want a hiring manager to hire me for, because I would want to be seen equally as a woman who was before her childbearing age, or a father who was going to need to be around as well. But it's true that there's a lot of wisdom and experience to be had in the elder years. the aged elder years of 40 years old. Yeah, I think that's the hardest part for me is when as you get older, you start reading articles or hearing about how, air quotes, older people are not as hireable as younger people. And then you realize that the older people are actually your age. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, so I've kind of reached that point. Just keep that in mind, kids. But I mean, I think the comparison and part of this kind of lies in the fact that when you look at technology companies, and largely how the really big technology companies, especially Google, Facebook, how they set up their job and their campus. They create this huge campus that offers pretty much everything you possibly need, to the point to where you have no real reason other than living a normal life to go home, right? You have every modern convenience that you need there. They feed you, they do your laundry, they actually have on-site, child care in some case, in many cases. But ultimately, that kind of a lifestyle, buying into that type of a lifestyle, is inherently, I feel like, something that the younger generation of workers is okay with. It's a young man's game, you say.
Well, I mean, when you're 20 or 20 to 30 in that age group, you kind of, I don't know, you have less to come home to, let's say. And that's a broad generalization. I realize this entirely, but I think there's some truth to that, right? Like, as you get older, if you have families, you have more of a reason to take a step away from work and be like, no, look, I need my normal life. When you're younger, you're working to succeed a little bit more, right? And so you're willing to kind of put a pause on all that other stuff and live at work, because they make it possible for you to live at work and spend your time there. And as an employer, I think you look at workers like that and you're like, man, these people are willing to do whatever it takes, whatever we need them to do. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. But from an employer standpoint, they're getting something out of them that they may not be getting out of an older worker.
Well, I would argue that is a problem with the way we look at work. And
absolutely.
And the workplace, because I don't think no one has proven to me that kind of, I'm gonna stay up all night, I'm gonna eat pizza and drink Red Bull and and work for 80 hours a week, that's necessarily good for anyone, whether you're 20 or whether you're 45. Like, I mean, people say, oh yeah, and we should be able to go home to our families, but everyone, whether you have children or not, should be able to have a well-rounded life. Maybe you don't have children to take care of, but you have parents to take care of, or maybe you just want to relax and not think about work and not check email at 10 p.m. Everyone should be able to do that. And work is changing so much. I mean, we talk about automation and losing jobs, but I mean, we're going to be
the nature of work will really change. And so I think this is something interesting, and people are healthier longer. People, 40 is the new 30, all of that jazz. So I think hiring managers should really take this into consideration when, because it's not doing them any favors by not hiring people like us who can come up with amazing ideas like John Denver EV.
We are seasoned in our ideas like John Denver. Well, I mean, yeah, part of this falls on the hiring managers if they are in fact opting for younger workers over older workers for that very reason. Part of it also falls on the workers themselves, and that's not necessarily a bad choice, right? Everybody has a different idea of what a good work-life balance is. And for some people, their life is their work, and they're perfectly fine with it. So they're perfectly fine giving 80 hours a week to their job because that's their life at that point. And they feel that putting in a lot of work now may pay off later. You know what I mean? So you can't really fault them for that either. They are so dedicated to their job that they're willing to do that, and an employer is going to see that and think that's pretty darn awesome.
Right. But I mean, if they really are, and then what about everybody else? If that's the expectation. And I think that's the challenge. That's the expectation with like paternity leave, for example. Like lots of places have paternity leave, but at lots of places it is not okay to take it.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, we have this, but oh yeah, do you see Joe over there in accounting? He took his paternity leave. It's like that still is the culture here. And I think I hope that changes.
Yeah. And this report did point out that this is like, it draws the comparison between the tech industry versus other industries. And in other industries, kind of that age, raises. In the tech industry, it's like somewhere around late 30s or something like that. In other industries, it's like 45. So tech is skewing younger as far as the study is concerned.
Yeah, and user 21952 says, if you love your work, should you be banned from it? Absolutely not. I love my job, but I still have to keep myself from like looking at Twitter and thinking about, people we might interview. And, I could spread it out into 24 hours a day. And this is personal, but I really have to at some point stop, turn it off, say, oh, maybe I should read a book or talk to my children or something.
But that works for you.
Yeah, that's
and that
me.
works
that's
for me. There are a lot of people that just don't care. There's like, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe that hits a breaking point, and somewhere down the line they realize like, wow, what happened to the last 20 years? I've been working like crazy. What do I, I've got a great, great prestigious position, but everything else in my life sucks. Who knows? But
Who knows?
Everybody has a different intention and a different approach to this type of stuff. It's how they're hiring, how they're judging that inside at the company that I think is really interesting. If they're skewing their hiring practices younger, for whatever reason, they're missing out on, like you said, kind of what was the sage something?
The tech sage.
The tech sage with the gray dashes of hair on the side. It's hard. I hope to be a tech sage someday.
We should come up with a new show called Tech Sages.